I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call of aldermen.
Mr. Heisler.
Here.
Mr. Kinsella. Mrs. Holt.
Here.
Mrs. Schmidt. Mr. Ridgewitz. Mr. Randall.
Here.
Mr. Anthony. Here. Mr. Davidson.
Here.
Mr. Silsby.
Here.
Mr. Hayden. Mr. Seibert.
Here.
Mr. White.
Here.
Mr. Galletti.
Here.
Mr. Musgrove.
Here.
Mr. Orlett.
Here.
Ms. Schneider.
Okay, I know that Schneider, Ridgewitz, here comes Schneider, Ridgewitz. They're all here. Kinsella and Hayden are here. The one that's excused is, she's ill this evening, is Alderman Schmidt. Roll call of department heads.
Police Chief Clay. Fire Chief Poore. City Attorney Garrett Horner. Ken Vaughn. Royce Carlisle. Jamie Matrit. Tim Gregowitz. Jim Schneider. Leander Spearman. Emily Foltz. Chuck Schaefer. Bob Sabo. Debbie Belleville. City Treasurer Dean Hart.
Here. Mike Parks is here for Chuck Schaefer. Debbie Belleville's excused. Somebody else that was excused. Who else am I missing? Tim's coming down. I guess that's it. That was the only one. Yeah. Debbie's excused. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we have Boy Scout Troop 53 in our presence. They're working on citizenship in the community, as we have Boy Scouts periodically meet with us. And they are sponsored, I guess. Are you still out of Union Methodist Church? Been there for many years, and a very active troop. And if they would please come forward, I'd ask everyone to please stand and join them in leading us in the pledge. Thank you, gentlemen. There are some agendas on that table, Scouts, if you didn't get one. You got, okay, so to help you follow the meeting. If you ever have any questions for your badge, you can always feel free to contact me. Being an old Scoutmaster, I'd be glad to help you do that. It's very good. Keep going for your eagle. It's a great accomplishment. At this time, I want to touch base with everyone to, first of all, remind the council and anyone who participates with public participation to wait till you're called on, first of all, and then come to the microphone, state your name and address. We are being videoed now. We've been for some time, but it's being carried on channel number again, 989? 989, I believe it is. It's on our web. You can get it on the Belleville web, and it'll tell you how to link. And we also, you can get it on the website. The meetings will be posted. I believe they're there on Wednesdays and Sundays. You can see them. But my point is, please speak into the microphone, speak loud and speak clear. The one complaint I've received once or twice is that it's been hard to hear some people, and that primarily is aldermen who are not speaking into their microphones. So that's the first comment. Second of all, I want to make sure everybody is reminded about the emergency procedures. If for some reason we had to evacuate this building while we were in this particular meeting, if it's a fire, we would go carefully, cautiously out the front door, cross the street carefully, and meet in front of the courthouse by the courthouse sign, and try to get somewhat of a count of who's your buddies sitting here and who you came with. And if it was a storm, the police officers would help guide you to the basement, which is the stairs are directly across from the city clerk's office over near the drinking fountain. You go downstairs to the area that's deemed to be a good, safe area for a shelter. So that's, hopefully we don't need any of that, but that's just for your reminders. We have no presentations or recognitions or appointments tonight. At this time, I'd ask for a motion for the special city council meeting minutes held August 25th, 2014. What's your pleasure?
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to receive and file the meeting minutes from the special city council meeting of August 25th.
Motion by Alderman Heisler. Do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Consilla. Do I hear discussion? Alderman Hayden.
Yes, Your Alderman, fellow Alderman, I asked that as I presented to everyone at the last committee, and it's in this packet, that I would like to strike where it says Mayor Eckert, Alderman Hayden, and Chief Clay discussed the remark of something hidden.
Can you tell us what page?
That's page 3. Page 3, second paragraph, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 lines down. And then add the verbatim that is at the end of the minutes from September 2nd, which is what was actually said.
Alderman Consilla.
Could you repeat that again, because I'm having trouble finding what he wants stricken, okay? It's the 10th line down, you say?
Page 3, Alderman Consilla,
Okay.
where the second full paragraph starts. If you go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, towards the end it says Mayor Eckert, Alderman Hayden, Chief Clay. Next line, discuss the remark of something hidden. I want to strike that because I never said the word something hidden, and I want to add what was submitted at the last city council meeting, which is at the addendum of your minutes of September 2nd, which you all should have.
It's kind of backwards. It's, the back of the page is the front. When you get to, this is what it looks like.
Okay.
No objection, Your Honor.
That's acceptable.
Okay, so we have Mr. Hayden's request as being approved by the person who made the motion, Alderman Heisler, and by the person who seconded the motion to approve the August 25th minutes of 2014, Alderman Consilla. If there's no other changes or additions or corrections, all in favor of signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We go to the regular city council meeting minutes held from September 2nd, 2014.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I just want to know if we skipped public participation tonight.
We will go right back to it, and we did. And you know what? We have a little new format here with the, and it's just, Jennifer's got a little different here. And quite honestly, I flipped over here because it's, I thought I had all that on the other page. A little bit different design. Bigger print, which is good, but I missed it. So we'll go back. Let's approve the minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the regular city council minutes of September 2nd?
Yes, Your Honor, I'll make a motion to.
Motion by Alderman Heisler. Do I hear a second? Second by Alderman White. Do I hear discussion? All in favor of approving the city council, regular city council meeting minutes held September 2nd, 2014, signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? Motion carries. And we will go back, and I apologize. We have no public hearing this evening, and we will open public participation for anyone in the public who would like to address the council this evening. Please raise your hand, and I will recognize you. If there's no one, I will close public participation. And we'll move back to item number 9, claims, payroll, and disbursements.
Yes, Your Honor, I'll make a motion to pay the claims, payrolls, and disbursements. So moved, Your Honor.
Motion by Alderman Heisler. Do I hear a second? Second. Second by Alderman Anthony. Do I hear discussion? Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Ridgewitz. Randall. Anthony. Davidson. Silsby. Hayden. Seibert. White. Galletti. Musgrove. Orlett. Schneider.
Aye.
Motion carries. Reports. We have a housing report of cash receipts for fiscal year 2014 and 15. What's your pleasure? Not everybody at once.
I'm glad that they be filed.
Motion by Alderman
Second, Your Honor.
Kinsella to accept and file, second by Alderman Heisler. Discussion. All in favor of accepting and filing the housing report signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Zoning Board of Appeals Advisory.
Number 1, case 53, August 14, Greg Crawford requesting a special use permit for 8 high-end 1 and 2 bedroom residential units at 126 West 8th Street, located in a C2 heavy commercial zoning district.
Move this be approved.
Motion by Alderman Holt. Do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Schneider. Do I hear discussion? All in favor of approving this first case number 53 and have the proper ordinance drawn, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Number 2, case 54, August 14, Adam Nordmo, Peachy Yogurt Bar LLC, doing business as Junction, requesting a sign installation permit for area of special control in order to place one projecting non-illuminated sign totaling 9.7 square feet located at 200 East Main Street in the C2 heavy commercial zoning district.
Alderman White. Okay, motion by Seibert, second by White, to approve case number 54 and have the proper ordinance drawn. Any further discussion? All in favor of case number 54 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Number 3, case 55, August 14, Laura Spellbring, Turn Treasurer's Gallery, requesting a sign installation permit for area of special control in order to place one flush-mounted, non-illuminated sign totaling 48 square feet and one flush-mounted, non-illuminated sign totaling 20 square feet at 225 East Main Street, located in the C2 heavy commercial zoning district.
Move to approve.
Motion by Alderman Holt. Do I hear a second? Second by Alderman White. Do I hear discussion? All in favor of approving case number 55 and have the proper ordinance drawn, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That all of them?
That's it.
We go to oral reports. Alderman Kinsella.
I'd like to make a motion on behalf of Ordinance and Legal Review to approve the contract for codification services with American Legal Publishing, subject to review and approval by the city attorney.
Have a motion. Do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Davidson. Do I hear discussion? Alderman Hayden.
Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to see this issue postponed for 2 reasons. One, I have nothing in my packet on how this was bid, what they're bidding, what the cost is, 0. And 2, shouldn't we have the city attorney review it and provide us with a memorandum of his opinion of it before we approve it instead of after?
There was a memo that was provided as to the process that was utilized to the Ordinance and Legal Review Committee, and I didn't realize till shortly before the meeting, on a conversation I had with Alderman Randall, that this memo was not included. I'd be happy to speak to it, but you know, it's whatever your.
I'd like to see it, to be quite honest, in your opinion, you know, in writing, in all 3 of the bids and the cost before I would feel comfortable voting on this. We've taken some time to do this. I think we should do it right, and my motion is let's postpone this to the next meeting and get a summary of all 3 bids, the cost, as well as the city attorney's memorandum to the city council so we can review this.
I'll second it.
Motion by Alderman Hayden to postpone, second by Alderman Schneider to postpone.
To get the.
To share the additional information as requested.
And his memorandum explaining why we're doing it, what we're doing it, and all that.
I have a question. Would you want this to go back to committee, or you were just asking for the information that was shared with the committee?
Yeah, I don't need to go back to committee. I see no need for that. I just want it to be in the packet, and by then I would hope we would be able to have the at least unapproved, you know, draft minutes of the committee and the discussion and how they resolved the decision.
And about how long it's going to take to.
Well, we got at least 3 weeks now.
No, how long it's gonna take for them to go through all this before it's done, what their projected time is.
Well, I have a memo completed that's already been issued to the Ordinance and Legal Review Committee at its meeting on September 5th.
I just want to see
Any additional information that you would want, I could provide if you so identify. The thought process from that committee meeting was that we had made the recommendation to them as the committee that had conducted the interviews of the three firms and rank them, and then what we were trying to do was get approval of the rank before we went to them and negotiated a contract. I could tell you what the costs associated with it'll be, but we were trying to garner approval of the city council before we contacted the recommended firm in order to ensure that it was in fact approved by the city council before we did so.
Garrett, would you mind explaining who was in on that committee and the three?
Yes, the committee that interviewed the three firms, one was live and two were by video conference. The committee was comprised of Mayor Eckert, clerk, the city clerk Dallas Cook, the assistant clerk Jennifer Starnes, and Emily Fultz and Eric Schauster of the Economic Development Department, and myself. And we conducted those interviews and reached unanimous consensus as to the order of the recommended firms.
So all six of you decided on the same ranking with these three companies?
Yes, after each interview, we discussed the firm that was just interviewed, and then following all the interviews, we reached consensus as to the order of the recommended firms, and they each provided they identified similar services. You know, we had some questions from some of the aldermen. We posed those questions to the firms and obtained the answers, and they all provide similar services as far as legal review and recommendations, reorganization of the code, electronic media server hosting, future review and supplemental services, and they all were at comparable prices. They weren't obviously all identical prices, but they were all comparable, and they were all below the amount that had been budgeted for the project. And it was the consensus of the committee that we thought that American Legal Publishing demonstrated a more thorough and interactive review process, as well as a shorter timeline for completion, because the goal that they indicated they would be able to achieve, which we liked, was completion and publication by the end of the fiscal year.
Was there a start time on that?
October 1st.
As soon as we get, as soon as we get a contract.
Is there the idea that this company that was ranked number one by everybody, have they done business in this area or in the state or the?
Yes, yes. In fact, they had several municipalities in the state that they've worked with, including a handful of local ones.
Is this the firm that does Chicago?
This is the firm that does Chicago.
And they've done quite a few in the metro east as well.
Locally.
O'Fallon, no?
Yeah, Fallon, Swansea. They've got a good track record, very good track record.
Joe, did that settle it, or do you want to see?
I want to see paper.
You didn't want to see paper upstairs, but now you want to see paper.
Excuse me?
You didn't want
Point
to
of
see
order.
paper upstairs.
Hold it. He had the floor.
Excuse me, I'll take it back.
I don't understand the question, Mr. Chairman. Can you have him repeat it?
Look, I'll take it back, Joe.
Okay,
You know, I
okay.
don't understand, Mr.
There's a motion.
Mr.
and a
Mayor, I don't,
second.
I had asked for the floor. Don't understand the gentleman from Ward 3, but he has continued to, from Traffic Committee earlier this week to this meeting. And let me tell you something, Mr. Davidson, your comments, your thuggery, and your ways of trying to conduct yourself is not going to intimidate this gentleman from Ward 5. So whatever your efforts are, you might as well stop it. I want my request, and that is I believe we should see the paperwork. And no, I'm not going to take it outside like you wanted to before.
Okay, Mr. Hayden,
No.
you have, no,
No,
listen to me.
he started.
Mr.
sir.
Hayden,
He started.
it's
sir.
not, we're not in school, you're not kids, shame on you with these, he started, he said, she said. I
I'm not
don't
gonna
care what
tolerate
happened
it,
last
Mayor.
Tuesday.
I'm not going to tolerate it.
I'm not gonna tolerate it, and I'm gonna ask you to leave if you don't settle down here in a second.
he's
You're
continually
dragging an
threatening.
you're precipitating an argument that occurred a week ago.
He's continuing threatening me.
There's no,
The motion has been made.
Alderman Schneider, I will call on you. Your outbursts, meeting after meeting, without raising your hand, are what precipitates this. Now, just hold on a second.
His comment precipitated it, and you know that, and admit it.
I take my comment back, Mr. Chairman.
Don't sit there and blast on me when he started it, and it's not being children. This gentleman needs to control himself.
There's a lot of control needs to be in this council. There's a lot of people in this council need to be under control. Okay, I want to clarify something before I call on you, Alderman Schneider. We have a motion and we have a second to postpone this for 2 weeks, with the understanding that the city attorney will get additional information and his memo to everyone and share. Now, the packets were about this thick. If somebody wants to come in and see and look through the 3 final ones that we looked at, I don't think we should have to kill that many trees or make staff scan all of that to go through the whole thing. If you want to come in and look at that, I think that's available to you, Alderman. But we'll get you the synopsis, we'll get you his memo, and we'll have
That's what
everything
I
here for the next meeting. Is that okay?
That's the main thing I want.
Alderman Holt.
Okay, and would you please include, if they are available, the meeting minutes of the Ordinance and Legal Committee? Because that may also clarify some things.
If they're ready, we'll ask Jennifer to have those ready. Alderman Schneider, I'm sorry, you had your hand up.
This is why I have to burst out my remarks, because you knew I had my hand up and you went and called on her. You always do that. Watch the films.
Alderman
All
Schneider.
I wanted to say was when I bursted out with my comment was, the motion has been made and seconded. You never look over this way. Watch the video, or I wouldn't burst out my remarks. You're always telling me I'm bursting out and being rude in that. Well, if you would look over this way and call on some of us over here, it would be a different story. I wasn't gonna get into their arguments. All I wanted to say was the motion was made and seconded. And you ignored me, and then you went to her. You do that all the time, but mainly with other aldermen. And it's not right. We are all aldermen that sit over here. You never look over this way. Look at the counts to see how many people make a motion or second them from this side of the room. Now, I wouldn't be like this if you would at least treat us fairly. Watch the videos and you will see it.
We have a motion and we have a second. Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Ridgewitz. Randall.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Silsby.
Aye.
Hayden.
Aye.
Seibert. White.
Aye.
Galletti. Musgrove.
Aye.
Orlett.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
Motion approved to table. This time I'd ask for a motion to approve the limits for incremental property tax abatement for the city's application for a new enterprise zone. Do I hear a motion?
I so move.
Motion by Alderman Consilla. Do I hear a second? Second. Second by Alderman Anthony. Discussion. Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Ridgewitz.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Silsby.
Aye.
Hayden.
Aye.
Seibert.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Galletti.
Aye.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Orlett.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
Motion carries. At this time, I'd ask for a second part of that motion would be a motion to approve the authorization to submit taxing district resolution to taxing district governing boards for authorization. This motion by Alderman Kinsella. Do I hear a second? Second by Alderman White. This is pertaining to the previous vote. Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Ridgewitz.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Silsby.
Aye.
Hayden.
Aye.
Seibert. White.
Aye.
Galletti.
Aye.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Orlett.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
Motion carries. I'd ask for a motion to authorize the publication of a notice of public hearing regarding the city's application for a new enterprise zone. Public hearing is to be held at the October 20th, 2014 City Council meeting.
So move.
Motion by Alderman Consilla, second by Alderman Randall. Discussion. All in favor of this motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Alderman White.
Yes, Your Honor. On behalf of the Planning Commission, I'd like to make a motion to approve the preliminary plat for Bell Valley 3.
Do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Seibert. Motion was by Alderman White coming from the Planning Commission. Any discussion? Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Rudowitz. Randall. Anthony. Davidson. Silsby.
Aye.
Hayden. Seibert. White.
Aye.
Galletti. Musgrove.
Aye.
Orlett. Schneider.
Aye.
Motion carries. Alderman Silsby.
Your Honor, on behalf of the Finance Committee, I'd like to make the following two motions. Motion to approve reimbursement of $7,262.75 to Stonehenge HOA for city's portion of street sealing expenses for 2 streets in Stonehenge neighborhood. So moved.
Motion by Alderman Silsby, second by Alderman Seibert. I'd also like to note, if I could, Mr. Silsby, Alderman Silsby, that would be coming from the general fund. Everybody note that? We have a motion and we have a second. Yes, ma'am.
I want to publicly compliment Tim for his initiative in suggesting that even though the homeowners chose a bidder that was not the lowest bidder, that he suggests and watched out for the city's interest and suggested we only pay our portion for the lowest bidder.
Very good. I agree. We have a motion. We have a second to approve this first recommendation coming from Finance. Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella. Holt.
Aye.
Rudowitz. Randall. Anthony.
Aye.
Davidson. Silsby.
Aye.
Hayden. Seibert. White.
Aye.
Galletti. Musgrove. Orlett. Schneider.
Aye.
That motion carries. Alderman Silsby.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the city paying approximately $4,500 for the Walk of Fame labor expenses to be paid from TIF 1 by loan from TIF 3. So moved.
We have a motion by Alderman Silsby and second was by Alderman Hayden. I think, can we go ahead and make sure so it's clarified in the council minutes? Part of this original last approval also was in the committee, I saw it, I believe, where it also was moving it from the northeast quadrant to the northwest quadrant, right, Larry? Would you include that into the motion?
Yes.
Accept that? We have accepted by both people who made the motions to accept that it's going to be, originally it was planned for the northeast quadrant of the square, and it was asked to be moved to the northwest quadrant, and I want to make sure that this part of this motion so it gets approved on. We have a motion, we have a second. With that stipulation, roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella. Holt.
This motion does not specifically mention Belleville Historical Society, but because I am on that board, I am abstaining from this vote.
Okay.
Rudowitz. Randall. Anthony. Davidson. Silsby.
Aye.
Hayden. Seibert. White.
Aye.
Galletti. Musgrove. Orlett. Schneider.
Aye.
Motion carries. Alderman Heisler?
Yes, Your Honor. If there's no objection, I'd like to make the following motions for the Master Sewer Committee together. And instead of reading all partial numbers, just read the first sentence of the motion C.
For the easements.
Number 1 and number 2, the easements.
Nobody have a problem with this? Proceed.
Okay. Motion to approve the LTCP change order number 10, Belleville WRF/CSO from Cordy and Lujan contractors in the amount of $20,480.29. Motion to approve first flush basin sludge removal and disposal bid from Metro Ag in the amount of $282,130. Motion to approve the easement agreement. These are the 6 granted from the city of Belleville to the city of Belleville. And number 2, 1 grant granted to the city of Belleville from the Corey League Incorporated. So moved, Your Honor.
Motion by Alderman Heisler. Do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Randall. Do I hear any discussion on these items coming from Master Sewer?
In retrospect, can we remove item 2 and have that as a separate vote? As you know, I've had the Corey League expedite the easement, but as a 30-year member, I'd like to abstain on that vote for that.
So we'd be voting on A, B, and C, C1, and we'll hold C2 for a separate vote. Does everybody understand that? Is that okay with the 2 people making the motion? Yes, sir. Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Ridgewitz. Randall. Anthony.
Aye.
Davidson. Silsby.
Aye.
Hayden.
Aye.
Seibert.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Galletti. Musgrove. Orlett. Schneider.
Aye.
Motion carries. Alderman Heisler, you want to make the last one then?
Oh, this is the,
Second, number 2 on C,
number 2. Number 2, C.
to grant the city of Belleville.
Granted to the
easement
city
from-
of Belleville from Corey League Incorporated. So
Okay.
moved, Your Honor.
Motion by Alderman Heisler, second again by Alderman Randall. Questions? Okay, roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Ridgewitz. Randall.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Davidson. Silsby. Hayden.
Abstain.
Seibert.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Galletti.
Aye.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Orlett. Schneider.
Aye.
Motion carries. This time we have a motion from Alderman Seibert from Streets and Grades.
Yes, Your Honor, these are recommendations from the Streets and Grades Committee. The intersection improvements at West Main and 23rd Street. A motion to approve EFK Moen LLC for design in the amount of $29,150. Tip 3. So moved, Your
Okay,
Honor.
motion by Alderman Seibert, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Kinsella, do I hear discussion? Alderman Schneider.
Yes, we had a long discussion of this upstairs before we came down. It had failed committee, it went back to committee, it failed, and then it was a tie vote, which the mayor broke to pass it. And in discussion upstairs, we spoke of Lindenwood could, they're paying for it, they could pay for it themselves. Another thing is, these kids out there, they're not kids no more, they're students. It wouldn't be any different than if you had this many people walking downtown Belleville. There are ordinance and rules about walking in the middle of the street and that. We're spending almost $30,000 just for a study, when this could be, this money could go for somewhere else. We could put our own light, put the stoplight up with crosswalks. And maybe the police need to go out there and sit and ticket these kids. I mean, I shouldn't call them kids, I'm sorry, I take that back. These young adults, they just walk all over, they walk out in the middle of the street, however they want, where they cross. They should have a little bit more respect. Lindenwood is keep at us, and I was under the impression when we closed our pool that Lindenwood was going to be one of our partners, is what was talked about, that and the YMCA. We hear nothing of the pool with Lindenwood, but yet Lindenwood keeps asking us to do more and more. Maybe they should be paying this $29,150 just for the study. That's not going to be the light that's going to have to go up. So I'm going to be voting no.
Alderman White.
Yes, Your Honor, I have a statement I'd like to read for the record. I've given a copy of it to Mr. Cook.
Proceed.
The issue of considering an intersection design study by EFK Moen was referred to by the Streets and Grades Committee to the Traffic Committee and was addressed at the August 13th, 2014 Traffic Committee meeting. The driving concern was presented as the safety of Lindenwood University students crossing the street at West Main and 23rd Street. After much discussion, a vote was taken and the motion to approve the study did not advance. The consensus was to address the safety issue at the next Traffic Committee meeting. The issue was again discussed at the Streets and Grades Committee and once again referred to the Traffic Committee. Once again, the issue was discussed in depth at the Traffic Committee with committee members opposed to the proposal. They presented alternatives to the expense of a study at this time while addressing Lindenwood University's safety concerns. The motion to approve the intersection study was made by a proponent of the study and seconded. The committee vote would not have advanced the study, however, the mayor was there in attendance and broke the tie. During this meeting, it was stated that the presentation of alternatives by some of the members was a delaying tactic. I take offense to this accusation. We were elected to be good stewards of taxpayers' money. We are faced with many challenges that require our attention. We must be responsible in the allocation of tax dollars. I believe that a thorough discussion of the expenditure of almost $30,000 was not only warranted, but responsible. I personally spent many hours doing research on this issue and my opinions, as well as all committees members' opinions and recommendations, were a necessary and productive part of the debate. At this time, I'll present my objections to committing almost $30,000 to the study, suggest common sense alternative. A four-way traffic signal at the intersection of West Main Street and 23rd Street will address Lindenwood University's pedestrian traffic concern while improving the safety of vehicles exiting and entering the parking lots on both sides of Main Street. Most of the Lindenwood parking lots have access to 23rd Street. The New States Crime Lab parking lot exits directly onto 23rd Street. The students will be able to cross the street while traffic has a red light as opposed to the existing flashing yellow light. I am not opposed to doing a design study at a future date. Dr. Wingo, Lindenwood University Dean of Students, indicated that she expects the number of dormitory students to rise to 2,500. However, Lindenwood doesn't know where the future growth will occur. Some of the concerns brought up in the traffic committee included increased dormitory residency, increased nighttime events, and the flow of traffic on Main Street. If a traffic light is installed, we don't know where the where the growth will happen. As for the traffic flow, I believe technology exists to sequence traffic lights. I know light sequencing allows passing through several lights without stopping if observing the speed limit. Belleville East High School has one traffic light with four lanes of traffic and a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit. Vehicles park on the opposite side of Carlisle for many of the events during the school year. This situation does not trigger an expensive study. However, adult students at a private university crossing with 25 miles per hour speed limit and yellow flashing lights does. I submit that sometimes it is right to act on identifiable problems without external consultation. If you have a running toilet at home and upon inspection notice a worn out or cracked plastic or rubber flapper, is it more prudent to go to a hardware store and replace it yourself or hire a plumber? When asked directly by Alderman Hayden what Dr. Wingo, the Dean of Students, wanted, she said, a light. Therefore, Your Honor, I make a motion to amend the existing motion to approve the installation of a traffic light at West Main and 23rd Street with pedestrian crossing lights. Thank you.
Second, Your Honor.
Motion by Alderman White to install a light, but install, Mr. White, I'm a little confused though.
To install a traffic light at 23rd and West Main.
Traffic lights
Lights with pedestrian crossing light. with
at
pedestrian
23rd
crossing
Main with
incorporated.
no traffic study.
Yes, sir.
And we have a motion and a second from Alderman Hayden on that. Okay. I'm gonna get the city engineer, he's got his hand up, and I think he has a little information we maybe should listen to.
Part of the $29,000 is to actually put together design plans. There is gonna be money put towards studying the traffic, but when you put up traffic signals, are you gonna need 3 lanes coming out of North 23rd Street? Do you need a dedicated left-hand turn? You need to know what all those numbers are. So part of this number is to actually put together roadway plans and design plans for the traffic signals so an electrical contractor can come out here and do this work. It's not just studying numbers, it's actually putting plans together. We just approved $50,000 for an engineer tonight to put roadway plans together for Otto and 29th Street. You know, this is part of it. Yeah, there's a intersection design study. That intersection design study tells you how that intersection is supposed to perform. And it puts together the plans. So there's a lot more going into that $29,000 than you think. And it's detailed in the documents that I have provided to every traffic committee, 3 traffic committees and 2 streets and grades committees. That's all been documented.
Alderman Schneider had her hand up.
But there's no room to make all this extra what you're trying. All the president from Lindenwood wanted was crosswalks. We're taking it and ballooning it and spending more money than we had.
Would you please use the microphone?
We're supposed to be on a tight budget. The president from Lindenwood, all she asked for was a crosswalk. So we put the stoplight up with the crosswalks, and if those young people can't read or look at colors and know how to walk and when not to walk, this $30,000 could go for some streets that we need or buy a piece of equipment we need. We're spending money just to be giving money out. And it's wrong. The motion has been made and it's seconded, and I think we need a roll call vote if there's no more debate.
Okay. We have a comment from Alderman Kinsella. He's recognized.
I totally disagree with this. I am not an engineer. I don't design streets, etc. That is something that we pay other people to do. And have we ever installed a light without having a study done that you know of?
I don't know of any, do you, Tim?
I mean, that opens us up for a lot of liability. What if the study comes in and says, hey, the light's not the right thing, we need 2 of them, or something like that? And just because someone from the university said that's what they want, that person's not an expert, and sure, I'm sure she would want a study also.
Well,
we have to have a study in order to do this right. We are not experts. Some of us are micromanaging again. We're trying to get out there and do somebody else's job instead of sticking with our own. It is our obligation to do this correctly and do it right.
Okay, before I call on Alderman Holt, just let me note for the record, though, Alderman Schneider, just so we don't get off track. Dr. Wingo is not the president of Lindenwood. She's the dean of students, okay, just so everybody knows. So, okay, Alderman Holt.
I have several points I'd like to make. First, I would like to concur with my colleagues who have rightfully pointed out this would have died in committee except for the interference of the mayor on multiple occasions. I would also like to dispute what Mr. Kinsella just said about putting up traffic regulation devices, whether they be lights or signs, without studies. It is the regular practice of the traffic committee to put up signs in various places. In fact, we were asked to adopt state and local restrictions on how things were doing, and we decided, nope, we want to do it the Belleville way. We want to make our own decisions. So I find his position a bit hypocritical. But the main thing I want to say is this. What we are proposing to do is modify behavior, either someone who is driving a car or someone who is crossing the street. No spending $29,000 is going to change the behavior of a 19-year-old boy who is late for class. He is going to hit that door, and the door is very close to the street. He is flying across that. If he was 7 or 8, you might be able to persuade him, if there's no of his peers around, to walk down to the corner and press the button. But it is not going to happen. We are wasting the public's money on something that is common sense. We can put in a light every 20 feet, and they're still gonna cross the road when they wanna cross the road. This is a frustration that the public has of government overspending money. We're not saving ourselves anything by doing a study. We're wasting money. Thank you.
Alderman Hayden.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. In rebuttal to the engineer's statement, I'm sure if we had some figures that Alderman White, who made the motion, as well as myself second, and we would be more than glad to use maybe 5,000 of that money to do some form of a study to make sure that we're doing it right. In response to my colleague from Ward 1, I don't recall any study that was done to put the flashing pedestrian yellow lights up at either the 23rd and Main, as well as the one at the entrance to the Circle Drive. I could be wrong, but I don't recall any type of study being done to put them up. As it was discussed during the Traffic Committee and again in the Streets and Grades Committee, I'm trying to figure out what we're going to study when the university has made it very quite clear that they're not done with their building and building the halls and where the students are going to go and where the traffic's going to go. So that would necessitate another study, I guess, at the taxpayer's expense. And I want the full committee to know, because I feel, you know, it was stated by the mayor during the discussion at the traffic committee that Lindenwood does so much for the city of Belleville. I'm not disputing that one bit, although some people argue the city of Belleville did things for them by giving it to them for $1. I do argue that the people of Belleville do a lot for the city of Belleville. We never want to get anybody hurt, whether they be a young adult or a child, but the primary beneficiary of this issue is going to be Lindenwood University. When I asked if they would be interested in engaging and sharing in the cost, that was immediately shot down. When I asked why the study didn't go further west to encompass where there really are children, grade school students, it's Union grade school ages 4 to 12, 13, nobody seemed to have an answer to that. Therefore, possibly nobody seems to have a care how the traffic is going to affect them. Certainly, there may be a need of a turn lane, and that can be modified in there very easily. I don't see how this study, we have no room to widen those lanes because the basically the new concrete and sidewalks are poured, or we try to widen it on the basically the northwest corner. You're going to be right on top of Lindenwood's new dorm, and you do the other corner, you're going to be right on top of the crime lab with new sidewalks and everything. It is amazing me why, you know, and I was the one that was accused of trying to delay things, and I appreciate Alderman White defending me, because I'm not trying to delay anything. I'm trying to do what's in the best interest of the taxpayers, which is my job and obligation. The more bigger question is, why are we trying so strongly to push this through with ignoring the immediate concern? And that was Dina student Dr. Wingo's statement to me that all she wants is a pedestrian crosswalk. And that's what this motion does.
Okay. Alderman Seibert?
I stand by my motion.
No, I'd like to ask you to come take the chair. I have some comments, and I think it'd be best if I step to the microphone. May I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. For the Boy Scouts and for the audience here, besides being the mayor in the city of Belleville is the day-to-day chief executive officer. So I have a lot of involvement day-to-day with the staff and with these committees and with our partners in the city, such as Lindenwood University. And they have called, and Tim and I have been out there many times, and they've been concerned about traffic. And it has been talked about in committee before about there was a student hit about a year ago, Tim? Right by the tennis courts. So yes, we did talk to the committee, and we put up a flashing yellow light, but it doesn't seem to be effective. And that's Dr. Wingel's concern. Came back and talked to the police department and has talked to us several times that she has continued. The police department's been out there almost daily running radar, trying to get the public to slow down. It's a zone of 25 miles an hour. They've wrote numerous tickets each month, and the traffic buzzes through there pretty rapidly. Now, the dorm is going to open. The dorm that sits across the street on the north side will open in approximately 2 to 3 weeks, we're told. It's going to house a little over 200 students. Emily, they've already come with plans for the second dorm, correct? But I mean, they have been approved already for zoning, and they did talk to you, and they're coming relatively soon. They publicly stated they're going to build a second dorm of another 200 students right next to that one. And Dr. Wingel explained that the other day in traffic committee again, that they're going to have in the not too distant future, during this school year, by next year this time, potentially 400 students in those two buildings alone, not to mention the number of students who live in the houses on A Street and on West Main on the north side who have been remodeled into lodging. Now, just east of 23rd Street is the old Hyatt Lodge Motel that is now Lindenwood Links Lodge, and they have a number of students. I don't know the exact number, but I don't know, I'm guessing, but probably at least 80 or more, 100 in there, and other housing on 23rd Street side. So they came to us talking about concerns of safety. There are more cars. The traffic, the crime lab is now open, and the university's population is growing every semester, which is wonderful. Lindenwood has invested probably 30 to 35 million already, not counting these two dorms, in that campus. So it's not a question, I don't believe, it's pretty straightforward that they have been a very significant public partner in wanting to build that campus, and it's really turned and stabilized the central part of the city. When we talked about doing this, and we talk about putting up lights, and I think ultimately traffic lights are what's necessary there, but as Tim would tell you too, he doesn't have the time nor some of the tools and talents that he needs in his office to study these things. And I'm not so sure, Tim, would this study not go out a little bit and look towards the grade school as far as the traffic flow and everything and the bigger picture? It's going to be the area, right? So that was never ever said that it was not possible to do that. And you know, that's one of the concerns you brought up, but it's not just the immediate cross the street right there. It's looking at the impact of the area. Well, and I believe that's true. Hang on. Now, when there's comments made about Lindenwood paying, we know we never approached them in this particular case because with $9 million of dormitories in about a 12-month period being put up, this administration felt that having a traffic study done and having that initiated by this council was a pretty fair thing to do. They invest $9 million in new dorms. We look at a $29,000 traffic study. I don't think that's outrageous when you're looking at a public-private partnership of dollars. And we're looking at safety. We're looking at student safety, and I do think it's important that we expand the scope to include Union School. I won't deny that. I think that's, in my mind, I think I've always had it in mind that that would be a part of this. But, folks, when this first went down, there was a discussion and there was upsetness with me and with some of us because we didn't go out for RFQs was the first reason, Alderman Hayden, you were upset with this process. And then when we explained and it was questioned, when Mary Lamey was at the first meeting and it was finally explained her qualifications and why Tim and I chose Mary Lamey's firm, and this lady that's here tonight, it was very clear that they're very qualified to do a traffic study. We also then, the next meeting, it came up about cost, came up about the taxpayers' money, and then at the last traffic meeting, suddenly the thing came up that you told Mr. Davidson he had a conflict of interest because you said he was still teaching there, and he explained that he hasn't taught at Lindenwood in over a year. And I then said, if he hasn't taught there in a year, I don't believe that's a direct conflict of interest. Would it be, Mr. Harner? So there has been a number of different things. We go from one issue to another to another. Now, all I'm asking this council is that we do what we've done, I would have to say 95% of the time, and that's when we're going to look at a bigger picture and grow something. We get the experts to give us the advice and do the study we need. And I think it just makes sense. And I think we could be wasting our money if we don't get it and we put the wrong traffic lights up, and there's different variations, or we don't get the proper design of that intersection, which is included, as Tim said, I think we could be wasting the taxpayers' money. So I would wholeheartedly recommend that we would move forward to have the traffic study and continue to support and just celebrate what a great partner Lindenwood University has been and what they've done for that central corridor and what they do for our city. It's absolutely phenomenal, and I would just hate for them to walk away thinking that this city council has hard feelings about Lindenwood. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mayor. Alderman White?
Yes, sir. Your Honor, I'd like to point out that in my statement, I did not even mention any kind of a co-payment from Lindenwood University, in spite of the fact that we give them $150,000 a year. I did not mention that. And second of all, I would also like to remind Your Honor that Dr. Wingo said that Lindenwood, as far as she knows, does not know exactly where all of the expansion to the 2,500 dormitory students is going to occur. And I also said I would not be opposed to a traffic study when we get to the point where we know when all this growth is going to occur, where all this growth will occur. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Schneider.
Okay, I have to make a comment against your comment. You said Alderman Hayden made the objection.
Microphone, please.
I was the one that made the motion in Streets and Grades to deny it and put it back to take it back to traffic. It wasn't Alderman Hayden, it was me. I was the one that made the motion on that night. Okay, you said there was a flashing yellow light put up. Was there a study done then? I don't think so. If there was, I'd like to know how much that one costed and why it didn't go into the depth of this. Or was it right there at that little corner? And it's still the student's responsibility to learn how to cross a street. That West Main Street is a public street. Unless you're gonna close that off, it's already down to 25 mile an hour. These young people have to take some kind of responsibility of their actions. We cannot keep giving, and I don't think Lindenwood's gonna pack up and walk away. We're just giving more money to them, more money, and as the question was raised up in Streets and Grades, are they on the tax roll? Are we getting anything from them besides maybe sales tax, what the students in that buy? It all boils down to, excuse me, I'm sorry, it's the student's responsibility to learn how to cross the street. You're taught that in kindergarten. And as one of the other aldermen said, they're gonna dart out that door and across Main Street. I don't care how many lights you put up, how much studies you do. You're not going to protect these young adults if they don't take some responsibility themselves. They have to learn how to cross a street. And if they're running late for a class, as one alderman said, they're not gonna stop and look, they're gonna go straight out into that street.
Alderman Randall, I believe, I'm sorry.
Excuse me. So I am far denying this $29,150.
Alderman Randall.
Thank you, Your Honor. You know, I live and grew up just a couple of blocks away from Lindenwood University and Union School. I walk to grade school at 17th and West Main Street on a daily basis. I don't know that there's anybody more familiar, okay, with that section of Belleville than maybe I am at this point in my life. To think that the growth of the city or the growth of that university, as well as the crime lab, would need to have a study done in terms of how do we move traffic more effectively, I'm not in denial of that whatsoever. On the other hand, I would have to agree with Alderman Holt when she says if you're thinking about modifying behavior, that is not going to happen. Even on my way up here this evening, they were out there in the middle of the street basically waiting for one car after another to pass so that they can move in between them at maybe 100, 200 feet apart from one another. Thinking that that 25 mile an hour speed limit means anything in this city, is just untrue. The 25-mile-an-hour speed limit actually starts at South 30th Street, okay? The other evening, I was taking my son to dinner, and we were heading to downtown Belleville. And it's like NASCAR, where they try to beat one another across the railroad tracks before it goes into single lane. Okay? I had a vehicle come up to me on the railroad tracks, basically blaring its horn because I was merging into a single lane, and we had the digital traffic light out there. So I tried to point to the light with one hand so that they recognized that flashing speed limit, to where they were coming up on me at 52 miles per hour, and I was already down under 30. Okay? You're not going to change the behavior of these students and where they want to cross the street. Belleville West at its height had more than 3,000 students attending there from all over the city, crossing the street at all different points in time. To think that we're actually going to put up lights and that they're going to be proceeding through the crosswalk when it's their time to do so, I think is folly. On the other hand, if we are doing this study to make sure that turn lanes are being applied appropriately, that traffic from both sides of 23rd Street, whether it be north or south, is able to move freely and uncontested. If we're going to be doing a further study of South 23rd Street to go back to South Belt and how traffic is coming across the railroad tracks there and how it moves to West Main Street, then I think that's a different story. If Tim is suggesting, okay, that this study is one that would not just be taking a look at the intersection itself, but it's going to expand down both sides of West Main Street, both corridors of 23rd Street, then I think it's prudent that we take a look at this, especially now, given the fact of where these dormitories are located. You know, I wasn't available when the vote was taken in terms of their setbacks. I was opposed to that distance there for the very reason that when you get college students in that close proximity to a heavily traveled street, it can pose problems. Okay? Anyone who's attended a university that was within a city knows that to be true. Okay? Right now, I'm really more concerned about having a traffic study in place as opposed to putting up lights that will do nothing, okay, except provide another red, yellow, green, we go again. So I'm going to reluctantly vote in favor of this study in the hopes that it will be able to accommodate the future growth for this city, and that we're not kidding ourselves that we're actually going to be controlling the foot traffic around the university. That's not going to happen.
Alderman Holt.
Both you and Alderman Randall have mentioned expanding the scope of this study, and yet there is no motion on the table to do so. We can only vote on what this says. And frankly, I don't even understand it. Right now it says the limits of the topographic survey on West Main Street are from South 22nd to West Calvin approach. What is Calvin?
Tim, can you answer that?
That's what it says, C-A-L-V-I-N. And then the other part of it on 23rd is from West Washington to West A. And so, as far as I can tell, that does nothing towards reaching the elementary school.
I don't know what Calvin is unless years ago somebody in there had Calvin Johnson. I mean, I don't understand. That was Lincoln Home over
I
there.
don't know, because the Circle Drive isn't named,
No,
is it?
No. No. Well,
I also have other questions about the particulars of this proposed survey. Establish right-of-way on 4 corners. Really, we can't tell West Main is the right-of-way over 23rd Street? Erosion control? These streets are already paved. What? I'm sorry, I'm just not happy with things the way they are.
okay, we have a motion right now to deny, right?
No, we have a motion.
A motion to amend, which And the motion to amend is to just put up lights only with no study, correct? And it was made by Alderman White, it was seconded by Alderman Hayden, is that correct, or who did? Okay, that's correct. So the first vote I'm calling for is the motion, a yes vote for this will vote to deny the study and to proceed with, I don't know how we proceed, because I'm not sure what lights Tim will start to put up, but we'll have to go back and figure out what lights we might put up with no study. There's no recommendation for particular types, brands, numbers, so we'll have to, but your thing is to do lights with no study, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so roll call vote. An aye vote is to proceed with no study and to put up lights. A no vote would be to be against that, and then we'll go back and see where we are from after that vote. Roll call.
Heisler.
No.
Kinsella.
No.
Holt.
Aye.
Ridgewitz.
No.
Randall.
No.
Anthony.
No.
Davidson.
No.
Silsby.
No.
Hayden.
Aye.
Seibert.
No.
White.
Aye.
Galletti.
No.
Musgrove.
No.
Orlett.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
The noes have it, correct? What number do you have? I got
I have 5 to 10.
10 no votes and 5 yes votes. The no votes have it. Is there someone willing to make a motion? I know the motion was made first to amend or to change this. Alderman Kinsella.
Then we have our motion still on the floor.
Yes, which you made, or was it ever made? I lost track.
Yes,
of it.
Seibert Kinsella.
I'm sorry.
Alderman Seibert.
Alderman Seibert made it, and who you made it, Paul?
Yes.
And who seconded? To approve the motion as brought here to hire EFK Moen for that amount for a traffic study at that location, correct?
Exactly.
That was what's on the table now. Alderman Holt.
I would like to amend that we expand the scope of the study to 27th Street, include Union School officials, and send this back to committee to get a price on that.
I'll second it.
Hold it. Hold- And maybe we can negotiate with EFK Moen, maybe it's not that much more. I have not had a talk with them about what the additional scope would mean.
Okay, I'm not willing to vote on something without a firm price.
That I agree.
We have Alderman Kinsella.
We can approve this and then bring a change order later, can't we?
You can do a lot of different things. You can do a lot of different things here. Alderman Schneider.
But we don't know what it's gonna cost. So you're voting yes on no matter what the cost is? I have to agree with Alderman Holt that we send this back to get the final cost of expanding it, what it will be. Was that a motion, Alderman Holt?
I did make,
I'll second
yes.
it.
a motion
So
to
you
amend.
amended this
I'm
motion.
making a motion to amend, to expand the scope of the study and send it back to committee to get the particulars, including the price.
And I will second it.
So we have an amendment, a motion for an amendment to expand the scope and to hear what the price would be for that amended proposal. And a second by Alderman Schneider. Alderman Kinsella.
May I ask which committee they want to send this back to?
Traffic.
Because we were in traffic and then we weren't, and then we're in streets? May I-
Traffic.
Okay, she says traffic, okay.
So your motion includes sending it back to traffic.
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion, amended motion first, to not move this forward tonight, but to go out to EFK at Moen and talk about the cost for an expanded study. That's correct in a nutshell? Roll call.
Heisler.
No.
Kinsella.
No.
Holt.
Aye.
Ridgewitz.
No.
Randall.
Aye.
Anthony.
No.
Davidson.
No.
Silsby.
No.
Hayden.
Aye.
Seibert.
No.
White.
Aye.
Galletti. Musgrove.
No.
Orlett.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
We got this time?
We have 7.
I'm sorry?
7 to 8.
7,
It fails. The amendment fails. 7 to 8.
so 7 voted to, not to,
7 voted for the amendment to send it back to committee.
and 8
And 8
voted
did
against
not.
it. Okay, so it did not get amended.
Right.
Okay, we still have the original motion on the table. Okay. Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Holt.
No.
Ridgewitz.
Aye.
Randall.
No.
Anthony.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Silsby.
Aye.
Hayden.
No.
Seibert.
Aye.
White.
No.
Galletti.
No.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Orlett.
No.
Schneider.
No.
So the motion passes
8-7.
8 to 7. Okay.
Need a majority of the council elected.
So I need to vote? Okay. City attorney advises me that I need to vote because we need a majority of the city council. It's at 8 to 7 though right now.
Yeah.
I
Point
beg
of
your
order,
pardon?
point of order, Your Honor, you already banged the gavel.
I was banging the gavel to get attention.
You know, you were banging the gavel.
Mr. Hayden, would you quit putting words in my mouth? What I'm
Point of order.
hitting the,
You missed your opportunity to vote, Mr. Mayor.
I beg your pardon, but the mayor only votes in a tie, period.
No, that's
Well,
not true.
that's not true.
and the city
Oh, we'll
attorney,
just change the rules.
the city attorney had spoken here about clarifying this, and I simply there was comments going on, and I simply would say, let's let him finish to speak.
One of the instances under section 3.1-40-30 of the municipal code where the mayor votes is when 1/2 of the aldermen elected have voted in favor of an ordinance, resolution, or motion, even though there is no tie vote. And the reason why you need the vote is that this involves an expenditure of money. So under 3.1-40-40, it requires a concurrence of a majority of all members then holding office, including the mayor. So,
Point,
I have a question.
point of order.
Hold it, I'm still
Point of
asking.
order. You, Honor,
Mr.
took the
Hayden, I have
vote.
not recognized you yet.
I am raising a point of order, and that gives me the floor when you raise a point of
You
order,
can't
Mayor.
just blurt out, Mr. Hayden.
Yes, you can when there's a point of order. And the point of order is you took the vote, Mayor, from the clerk, and once that clerk has taken the vote to you and you have gavelled, the voting is closed, and neither can any of the members out here change their vote. You missed your opportunity to vote, Mayor, and if you don't have the responsibility or understanding of knowing when to vote and get those orders and corrections from the city attorney beforehand, that's your problem. You missed your opportunity, sir. You missed your opportunity. The vote was passed.
I don't know the basis for suggesting that he missed his opportunity to vote.
When the vote is passed by the word from the clerk to the chair, Mr. Horner, that is it, and then he banged his gavel.
And Mr. Harner was advising this council.
He was
that
not,
due
he
to
was
this-
advising you.
Well, I
He was advising,
I informed him
whispering.
that
You're
under-
ordering
and I
him
gave
to
you the
vote.
section under which he would vote.
You're ordering him to vote. Now, we got the city attorney ordering the mayor to vote.
No,
That's what happened. You just
no,
said-
it most certainly was not. I advised him that under these circumstances, he's entitled to vote. I don't know why anyone would object to providing legal advice to anybody on this council.
Should have voted when it was 8-7 on the Kroger vote too then, because I think that vote was illegal.
Excuse me. Garrett, is there a time frame on that? Like after the vote, when the mayor is supposed to vote to make that a majority? I mean, can he come back tomorrow and vote and make the majority?
No, I mean, the meeting is still convened.
So as long as the meeting's still going?
No, had the vote been declared and suggested that it had been not passed? No, there had been no declaration that the vote was not passed.
We had not moved on to the
I
next
don't,
agenda item.
quite frankly, I don't understand why you want to prevent him from voting
The declaration was that the vote
when he's
was
entitled to under the law to vote.
The declaration was that the vote had passed 8 to 7, and that's what I have as of the record.
So
8 to 7, vote is passed, although it has not.
No, and Garrett was simply stating that because of the percentage of it, Garrett, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because you got, I cited the statutes.
Okay, and let's be honest, this has never happened before. So this is new water, okay? It's,
Illegal vote.
pardon?
It's an illegal vote for you, Mayor. You can go back and look at the tape. You announced it 8-7 and bang the gavel. That's it.
I banged the gavel because once again, people are talking out of control.
Oh, no, you didn't.
No.
I did not say anything about the vote. I turned to Garrett for legal advice because he had offered some comment. And face it, we've not experienced this before. Now, when I can't listen to, when we can't take advice from the city attorney as to how to proceed or what needs to be done, then I think, all of a sudden, all of us are lawyers. I mean, I think we have him here for that purpose. Now, Mr. Harner, I would have to say that your advice was that I was entitled to still cast a vote.
Correct.
We had not moved on to another.
Cited.
We had not moved on to another topic. I was trying to regain control to clarify this, and I am voting with the majority as it was so voted, which would then make it 9-7. Correct?
I'm not sure how to reflect that in the minutes. I don't think it is clear as to whether or not you can or cannot vote, or whether it was finalized. As far as the record is concerned, like I said, I have a vote of 8 to 7.
But I never, as the chair, never recognized the vote to be final. My gavel was simply to stop, once again, the outburst of everybody talking.
You just have to tell me how you want it.
Okay? Mr. Harner, what's your advice?
Again, under the statute cited, you're entitled to vote. If you want me to research the issue and determine when if people want to prevent that voting, then I'll research the issue, but you've already cast your vote.
Okay. Vote's been cast. Alderman Gleddy.
Garrett, if it happened like Joe said it happened, if he announced the vote and then gavelled it, can he still vote after that? Legally?
I'm going to have to research this because, quite frankly, I've never encountered this circumstance where there's been an effort to prevent the mayor from voting in a time or circumstance where the mayor is entitled to vote under the municipal code.
I'm not trying to prevent him from voting. I'm just asking what the procedure is.
Procedurally, I don't know of any legal basis to support the suggestion that he's not able to vote under these circumstances. I'll have to research that. I've never encountered a circumstance where this has been suggested.
Alderman Seibert, you were patient.
The vote's 8-7 or 9-7. What's the difference? It passed.
It's the procedure.
Get over it.
Okay. Alderman Schneider was next. Please use the microphone.
Sorry. My question is, did you not ask the clerk what the vote was?
Once or twice along the way we did, just to clarify.
No, this last time. You asked the clerk what the vote was.
We'll have to go back.
By rights, you shouldn't be asking what the vote is until you vote. This is where I think we're saying.
In 9 and a half
No, actually, the
years-
vote at that point needs to be known because there are only limited circumstances under which the mayor is permitted to vote.
That's right.
So unless, for instance, unless if the vote were,
What if it would have been a tie?
then he would have been entitled to vote, but you have an odd
But
number
he
of aldermen
already
here.
voted. What I'm saying is, he asked what the vote was. He was told.
Because
8
the
to
vote,
7.
what the vote is determines whether or not the mayor is entitled to vote under the municipal code. There are actually, I believe, 3 circumstances under which the mayor can vote. And that's when the vote of the alderman
Okay,
is
my
resulted in a
question
tie, or when one half of the aldermen elected have voted in favor of an ordinance, resolution, or motion, even though there's not a tie, or when a vote greater than a majority of the corporate authorities is required for the resolution or motion. Those are the circumstances under
Or if
which.
his vote makes a difference.
I'm sorry.
Or if his vote makes a difference.
Can I, this is another question I'm asking. Since there's so much discussion about the way the vote went, can this be upheld until the tape is reviewed? And, I mean, I thought he banged the mallet too. I didn't hear anybody talking. But he says he banged the mallet to get control of the meeting. So my question is, can we watch and put this on hold, make a motion to put this on hold until the next city council meeting, and it can be reviewed? Did he bang the mallet after he voted, or did he bang the mallet to get control? Was the vote done and the clerk announced what the vote was?
Alderman Holt, I believe you were next.
Thank you. I think the issue we are discussing is not a question of a legal opinion. It is a parliamentary procedure opinion. Clearly, Mr. Horner is not trained in parliamentary procedure. Therefore, his opinion is no different than anyone else's opinion. I think what Alderman Schneider is implying is that possibly we need an instant replay ordinance now. But that being said, I think it was actually a legitimate suggestion if we want to settle it this evening, because there are concerns about whether his vote is legal or not.
Alderman Hayden.
I want to go on record filing an official objection to this vote. There's no doubt in my mind. I want to note it in the record, Mr. City Clerk, that the vote was finalized. The mayor did not vote in a timely basis, and therefore his vote should be null and void. And I'm sorry, Mayor, but you're having a hard time convincing me that you don't know when to vote, when I've watched you vote many times in committee meetings. So, you know, you've voted more in committee meetings than all the mayors in the 200 history of this city. And the fact of the matter is, the vote was tallied, it was given to you, you said 8-7, you hit the gavel. That means that vote is done, and we are instantaneously moving on to the next subject, which is basically item 11B.
Mr. Hayden, this motion carries. Your objection's filed. We'll have to seek the legal advice.
We're going to seek the video, too.
Well, that's fine, Mr. Hayden. I think that, but let's make one thing clear. In 9.5 years, this is the second time I believe I've ever voted in a council meeting. I turned to Mr. Harner to ask for some clarification. I hit my gavel because many voices, once again, disrespectfully start talking. And it was a question of clarification to the city attorney. Now, you can take this and twist this any way you like. And you know, once again, if you see this as a success to slow this down, if that's the issue, I don't know. But we will get the answers, and we will seek proper, you know, additional legal consultation, and we will look at it. So, but I will tell you, the meeting, you know, you must have some respect, and none of you have sat in this chair. You know, these meetings are not extremely easy to manage when so many people are about to fall out of their chair, waving their hands and speaking out of turn, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just not quite. The cooperation is not really there from many of you, and it's not fair. At this time,
I have my hand up, Your Honor.
yes, sir, Mr. Hayden.
Yeah. In rebuttal to that, you know, it works both ways, Mayor. And you can talk about cooperation, and quite frankly, I can talk about your lack of leadership, because you are the one holding the chair. You are the one that actually sometimes incite these issues and problems. And I commend the public, very, very greatly commend the public, because yes, you are dealing with new things, because you sat there for many, many years with yourself and your 16 good government aldermen and did what you wanted. With the people who decided that with the tax dollars as being as hard as it is, and trying to put food on the table for their children, that they want other representation, Mayor. And that's what it's all about. And it works both ways. if you want cooperation, you got to establish trust and respect both ways. And you lack in that.
Alderman Davidson.
I like to know.
Alderman Schneider. Okay, I've called on you many times tonight, but when I call on Alderman Davidson now, I made a decision, then right away you want to turn and you want to just expound that I was first, I was next. We're like dealing with children here. Just calm down, you'll be next. Alderman Davidson.
I would just like to know where we are on this. The 8 people that voted to approve this, are their votes not counted?
Yes.
So if the 8, I mean, why would the 8 people that voted for this be denied? Because if you guys don't believe that the mayor has the right to vote, do you believe that the other 8 people that voted for this has the right to vote? And if they do have the right to vote, which I believe we do, then the motion passed.
I can answer that.
This will be continued to be looked at, and it will be reviewed, and we will come back at the next meeting. In the meantime, I and Tim will sit down and speak with EFK Moen about the scope of this work and have some additional answers for you in regarding those questions raised tonight as well. Okay, we are going to move on. At this time, we have, under Mr. Seibert's section,
Yes, sir.
number B.
1517 South High parking lot. Motion to approve Hanks Contracting in the amount of $75,261.90. So moved, Your Honor.
Motion by Alderman Seibert, second by Alderman Hayden. Discussion. Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Ridgewitz.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Davidson. Silsby. Hayden.
Aye.
Seibert.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Galletti.
Aye.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Orlett. Schneider.
Aye.
The motion carries. Communications.
12A, communication, I'm sorry, should I read them all at once?
I'll make a
or-
motion now to approve items A through E. If there's no objection, have the clerk read them.
I need to have A voted separately, please.
So moved. Read A separately, then B through E. That's my motion,
I'll second.
without objection.
That's good.
We have a motion to read item A under communications separately and to read B, C, D, and E as a group. And that second was by Alderman,
Seibert.
you made the original motion?
I
He
made the
did and you
motion.
seconded
I
it.
second.
Everybody clear on that? Please proceed with A.
A, communication from Belleville Historical Society requesting to change their plan to locate the Walk of Fame from northeast quadrant to northwest quadrant and discussion on cost.
Discussion. All in favor of this motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion
Please note
carries.
I abstained.
Okay, got it.
We'll note that.
B, communication from Optimist Club of Belleville requesting Santa on the Square and permission for the annual Santa Parade on Friday, November 28, 2014 at 10 a.m., 17th and West Main Street to proceed east on Main Street to Forest Avenue. C, communication from Beth Regensberger requesting a 5K for a fundraiser for the Mary Kay Foundation on October 4, 2014. D, communication from Belleville Main Street requesting permission to hold their annual art and wine walk on Saturday, November 22nd, 2014 from 5 to 9 p.m. They're requesting the use of the northeast quadrant of the public square and there will be no street closures. E, communication from Belleville 200 requesting an addendum to the previously approved resolution number 3157 regarding times and street closures. The date and times will be on September 18, 2014 at 7 a.m. to September 22nd, 2014 at 2 a.m. The street closure will be at Main Street from 3rd Street to Church Street. High Street will remain open for traffic.
Those are requests be granted, Your Honor.
Motion by Alderman Seibert, second was by who?
Second.
Second by, I'm sorry. Seibert made the motion, second by Joe?
Go.
Okay, I want to make one clarification though. High Street will remain open until it be deems a safety issue by the police chief and myself working together, correct, chief? That must be included in this because if the population gets so heavy this next weekend that it's unsafe, that the officers cannot control the value, we've made it clear to Belleville Main Street and the merchants that High Street at that time would have to be closed. And I can tell you that that's probably going to happen with the volume of people we're anticipating for this event. You accept that? You accept that?
Yes, sir.
So we have that to be added to them. We have those motions from B, C, D, and D communications. Any further discussion or questions? I'm sorry, you're correct. I didn't catch that as many times as we did it. Please also note that that should be from Charles to Charles Street. And Charles Street will remain open as well as Third, Charles Street will remain open.
Your Honor, just a question. Well, you brought that up. That's a very good point that you brought up. Would it be to your liking, and I'm sure Mr. Seibert and I would will in a minute, and the chiefs, that if you guys have concerns and needs that you think other roads, depending on the mass of the crowd, need to be changed.
Well, then we'll sign an executive order over the weekend,
You know,
and we'll make that decision.
But I'm talking about if you got to make it right on the
And the
spur.
chief and I communicate, and we will do that. And we've done it before. We've done it with Art in the Square when it got so heavy in crowd and it was unsafe to no longer have pedestrian traffic and cars at High and Main. We shut it down.
We're making that part of our motion, just so it's
Okay,
understood, man.
very good. We understand that, and that is to Church Street. And let me just say one thing. The reason this amendment is here tonight is, first of all, they just found out days ago that it's going to take a lot longer to set up this stage because it's larger and more complicated, so they had to get earlier in the morning on Thursday. That's why we're amending the time to begin with.
Is it still in the same place? In front of
Same
the courthouse?
location, but it's a bigger stage. If you notice today, they took down some lights that were in the little quadrant there in front of the courthouse because the stage is going to be much expanded to handle the professional acts like the Beach Boys, et cetera. Okay? So everybody understand that. All in favor of these communications as just read and stipulated and adjusted through the conversation here, signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? Motions carry. We go to petitions, we have none. Resolutions, I'd ask for a motion to read by title only. Resolution 3200, 3201, and 3202.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
can we read 3202 separate?
Yeah.
I have to abstain on that one.
So we're asking for a motion to read by title only, Resolution 3200 and 3201. Motion by Alderman Silsby, second by Alderman Seibert, to read those two resolutions by title only, and in those two as a group. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
A, Resolution 3200, a resolution to participate in the Federal Surplus Property Program. B, Resolution 3201, a resolution changing the time on September 18, 2014 from noon to 7 a.m. and the date from September 21st, 2014 at 12 a.m. to September 22nd, 2014 at 2 a.m. for the Belleville 200 regarding street closures for the Illinois Department of Transportation.
Motion to approve Resolution 3200 and Resolution 3201. So moved.
Motion by Alderman Silsby, second by Alderman Seibert for those two resolutions. Discussion? Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Ridgewitz. Randall.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Silsby.
Aye.
Hayden. Seibert. White.
Aye.
Galletti.
Aye.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Orlett. Schneider.
Aye.
Those two motions pass. I'd ask for a motion to approve, read title by title only, Resolution 3202.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Alderman Silsby, second by Alderman Seibert. It's first of all, let's read by title only, then we'll have discussion.
Okay, Mayor, this was not in our packet. It was laying on the table when we walked in. Some of us walked in at 7 and have not even had time to read
Well, we
it.
can go through it with you if you like. First of all, can we
Well, I was
have-
gonna ask if we could maybe take a bathroom break.
We can do that. I'll tell you what I will do right now. I'll take the authority to say we're gonna have a 5-minute recess.
Okay, thank you.
We'll come back, you can read this, it's very important.
It is.
And it's very timely in dealing with our attorney from Chicago. It was very difficult to get everything in the packet by Thursday.
Okay.
He was out of town. So, if we take a 5-minute recess for a bathroom break, and Alderman, I would encourage you read the resolution 3202. And I think Ladies and gentlemen, we are back in regular session. Before we recessed, we were about to take action on Resolution 3202. And I started to explain that this is a resolution in opposition to the Certificate of Need application submitted to the Illinois Health Facilities and Services Review Board by St. Elizabeth's Hospital of the Hospital Sisters of the Third Order of St. Francis for proposed hospital replacement project. The 3202 resolution spells out many of the concerns that we have talked about, that have been editorialized, been talked about with our attorney, Mr. Harner, and Mr. Mark Silberman, who this council approved to hire several months ago. Mr. Silberman feels that this resolution is very much necessary as we move forward towards the public hearing of October 2nd at Lindenwood University, and as we get closer to the CON Review Board meeting, which will be possibly in November. I think, has the exact date been set?
I don't have the exact.
I thought, I heard November 12th, but don't quote me for sure on that yet. So, this resolution is in front of you. Mr. Silberman was out of town last week when we started putting the packets together, but because of the urgency and timing of so many different efforts, we felt it was important tonight. So I hope you had a chance to try to digest it. Mr. Harner and I will be glad to answer any questions that you might have about the resolution.
Has a motion been made?
Not yet. I think we started, we were at the doorstep and then we stopped. So there's Alderman Silsby is making a motion. Did you make it already?
I don't remember.
Well, you want to start now?
I will.
I'll second.
Okay, hold it. First of all, a motion to read by title only, Resolution 3202.
Yeah, I thought we'd already done that, but maybe.
Okay, and a
Yeah,
second
we've
by
got that, but I haven't read it, right, but I have not read it yet. That's-
Okay, and we have a second then by Alderman Hayden in case it was, because it's been kind of a little bit unique here tonight. So, we have a motion and a second. I open the floor for discussion on Resolution 3202. Alderman Kinsella.
Point of order, I don't think he read the resolution yet, did he?
Yeah, we just need to read it.
Okay,
I just
go
need to
ahead.
read it. Yeah, see Resolution 3202, a resolution in opposition to certificate of need application submitted to Illinois Health Facilities and Services Review Board by St. Elizabeth's Hospital of the Hospital Sisters of the Third Order of St. Francis for proposed hospital replacement project.
Motion to
Resolution
approve.
be adopted.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Seibert, second by Alderman Silsby. So now we're back in technical form. Questions? First question, first hand I believe is Alderman Glady, and you'll be second.
The last paragraph on the first page, where does that information come from?
By our attorney we hired.
So he says that,
Hey, don't forget the microphone.
so that he says the two hospitals being within a mile of exit 16 in O'Fallon and Shiloh, the two hospitals being the new St. Elizabeth's and the new Memorial Campus, would be unnecessary duplication of services and adversely impact access to health care?
That's advice he
Correct.
put in.
That's one of his conclusions.
Do you know what it's based on, by any chance?
Well, it's based upon the application, and he's also reviewed the
193
application and the transcript from the prior certificate of need that was approved for Memorial.
Alderman Kinsella.
It
I'm
seems
sorry,
to me
I'm
that-
sorry, hold it.
No.
I had told Alderman Holt she was
You
next.
did. Okay, I have a couple of questions before we get down into the body of it. One is about the timing. It's very frustrating, again, to be hit with something that we gotta do right this minute. So, was there a reason this couldn't come out to us by email? Even if it didn't make the packet, just a day to review this would have been
Well,
good.
and I'll be honest with you, we got it today.
I got it today, and I
Okay,
immediately
all right.
put it into our format and sent it to the administration for distribution.
Okay, then you couldn't have done it because you didn't have it. All right, I am distressed at the number of trigger emotional words in this. It doesn't seem very professional. It seems highly emotional to me, and that's disturbing. Another question I have is, when we first started discussing this whole issue, we talked about offering the hospital alternate proposals they may not have discussed. That was part of the money that we agreed to spend on the attorney, was that there would be alternate proposals. And I have never seen that, so I have a question of, was that ever done? And my last question before we go into the body of this, is there a need for this resolution as far as the board goes?
First, with respect to alternative proposals, we requested to meet with St. Elizabeth's to discuss that. They declined.
Okay.
With respect to the resolution in opposition, is there a legal requirement that it be there? No, but I know that the city of O'Fallon has submitted as part of their application a resolution supporting it. I think it would be beneficial that this city council go on record as to its position with respect to the application for certificate of need.
Okay. Paragraph 2, it talks about economically challenged households and especially those in communities surrounding Belleville. I feel like that's going a little bit outside of our realm to even consider that. But the biggest thing for me is paragraph 4, where we're accusing a business of going out to advance their interest of their own business. It's flabbergasting to me that we can say this with a straight face. Of course a business wants to advance their own interests. They are there because they are a business. I was born at St. Elizabeth's. I was there with my grandmother when she died. I have a strong tie to them. I don't want to see them leave. But for us as a government entity to sell somebody, gosh, we don't want you to advance your business here, I think that sets a very bad precedent for anybody else who would ever even consider coming into Belleville. And then for us to call them liars, which is what disingenuous means, it's very, very troubling. And to say all the benefits will go to O'Fallon, we just sound like we're pouting. The tone of this, to me, is very disturbing. And then we close with the word abandonment. Like I said, the emotional trigger words on this are just unprofessional and I feel do not reflect well on the city.
Mr. Kinsella, I believe you were next.
I would like to address what Alderman Galletti had mentioned in the bottom of page 1. It says, whereas the Belleville City Council believes that 2 new hospitals within a mile of exit 16 on O'Fallon Shiloh would be an unnecessary duplication of services and adversely impact access to health care. Are you having trouble with that access to health care? That's the part that's a trouble to me. But if
Right, it seems like.
okay, but this is kind of a visual. If you have a hospital here and a hospital here, the availability of access is not as great as if you have one here and one down here. In other words, it would be in 2 different neighborhoods or 2 different communities affording better access. I think that's the rationale they're using in that line. Thank you.
Alderman Schneider.
Like on the comments and the changes that maybe we would like to be seen, would this have to be passed tonight, or can we pass it with the changes that we're talking about, or how does this
You can do anything that the majority decide here. The attorney, in talking to him, and some of the people who have been working with my office
This gentleman has been
in opposition to them moving, are looking for a resolution. Gentlemen, they're looking for a resolution as to our stance and our position, talking points. There's many people who are out there working on the behalf of Belleville who are very much upset that the hospital wants to pick up and leave after 140 years.
Well, none of us want that.
Well, and that's why we're proposing this as a
But how do
resolution.
we go about, since it's, we're on I always call it a short time frame.
Well, life is a short time frame most of the times, Alderman Schneider. The attorney we hired worked at one time for the Certificate of Need Board as chief legal counsel. He crafted this resolution. So if it seems sharp or harsh, this is the gentleman that we're paying the rate that we agreed to pay, who advised that this resolution is what he advises for me to take to you as consideration for approval here tonight. He's looking for tools in the toolbox as we move forward to fight this opposition of moving the hospital. St. Elizabeth is unwilling to meet with us about any alternatives here, and therefore, you know, I looked at this, and I might have a few questions about a couple of words. I saw it late today. Probably about 4 o'clock was the first time I really had a chance to sit down and read it, and I don't think it was in my office much before that. So at that point, I had my assistant to copy it and make sure it was down here for everybody to see. Because my experience with email is, with almost, some of you use it regularly, some of you don't use it every day, so I figured the best thing we do is get it on your desks. So that's where I'm at with it. Yes, ma'am, sure.
With the changes that we're talking about, and you said there yourself, there was some words that you would like to maybe have changed.
Nothing I'm hung up on.
Pardon?
Nothing that I'm losing any sleep over. I'm just saying, we could take many days to try to make it perfect. But it is a document that this attorney, who we hired, crafted, talked to Garrett about, and sent to us today, asking for us to consider approval of it.
Garrett, is there anything on here that you would see that you would want changed? Are you pleased with the way it's wrote?
No, based upon the position that the city has taken up to this point, I think that this is entirely consistent with that position. And I think that that we should take the advice of those that are representing us in this opposition.
One more last question before I yield the floor. Maybe I overlooked it, but last meeting I made a comment that I was wondering if it would be beneficial, as everybody here tonight seen, we don't always get along, we're at each other's throats. Not because we're being mean, but that's just the nature of government meetings. What if we all sat together, and I said this at the last meeting, to show that we're united and we want to keep the city of Belleville here. I would think it would be a nice suggestion to come from the mayor or the city attorney that we have a row reserved for the city of Belleville elected officials.
At the October 2nd meeting?
Yes, I think it would be, show we have a united front and we're here on this together.
I would hope that we all would go. I haven't gotten that far yet.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, we all sit in the same row, that we look
Okay.
like we're together, not.
I will, Garrett and I and Mark Silberman will have that conversation, and I will certainly share it with you. I'm trying to get through this week here.
Well, I mentioned it last week, and
there's been a lot of stuff on all of our plates. Alderman Hayden, you had a question, and then we gotta go over here to Alderman Randall.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I apologize, me and Alderman Silsby were having a little sidebar discussion, but
We know.
we'll be willing to share it as we say it. And what we're basically discussing, yes, there are some, you know, does this word sound better than that word? Could this word be this better? You know, is it the semantics of that? You know, ultimately you get into a situation where, you know, sometimes if you have too many people proof your term paper, you spend more time rewriting it than you did writing it. The point that Alderman Silsby and I were discussing is we have paid a specialist to work for us, and no matter how you want to word Resolution 3202, it comes down to a simple factor. Are we as members of the City Council representing the City of Belleville against St. Elizabeth closing a few blocks away from us and leaving Belleville? And to me, the responsible answer is yes, we are against it. So I will support Resolution 3202 on that merits, and I hope all of my colleagues do it if they can, unless they have some kind of conflict, because I do confer with Alderman Schneider that the best united front that we can put on, the better.
And I will say a step further. I think it's imperative that all of you, if you haven't already written letters or made phone calls, contact elected officials higher up, let them know how you feel, and ask for them to write letters of opposition. I think it's important that you talk to people in your wards. There is, it's no secret, Patty Gregory has come to my office, and a number of her friends and other of our friends are taking a very active grassroots effort to write letters. We're waiting for Mr. Silverman tomorrow to show us a draft of a proposed petition that will be circulated for, we hope literally thousands of people in Belleville sign it.
Will we be passing the petition?
You certainly will be able to. I would certainly hope that you would. Now, let me just tell you something today, and it's a sketchy story, but let me just share this with you. I was asked not to give the businesses, to be confidential, but I had another sickening feeling today about this whole St. Elizabeth's episode. A local downtown business contacted me today, and I sat and talked with them for a while. They're most likely going to be closing up. And one of the reasons they cited was already in the last 6 to 8 months, St. Elizabeth's has taken away a big chunk of their local business, outsourcing it elsewhere, no longer working with them. This is the concern when you talk about the economics of what this hospital leaving. It's not that people are going to lose, necessarily all the people are going to lose jobs, because 7 to 8 miles, as the crow flies, is not impossible to get to work. Now, I will say this. There are people at that hospital, though, who walk to work or take the bus to work in the kitchen, certain jobs, dietary, different things. I've been told, had phone calls, that do depend on, and there is at this time, to my knowledge, no bus route planned for that hospital in O'Fallon. There's no mass transit planned, and it is not real walkable. So there are some people who will find it very difficult to maintain their jobs. Doctors and nurses aren't going to have a problem getting their cars to get there. But there are some people, and our biggest concern that I see are people needing the indigent care are going to be struggling to find transportation, public transportation, to get them to that hospital on the interstate. I also will tell you one of my personal concerns. If the CON board grants Memorial Hospital permission to leave Belleville, St. Elizabeth's Hospital to leave Belleville, I'm sorry. Memorial got their CON to build a satellite. I fear that Memorial Hospital in Belleville will be taking on a great additional indigent care level, and I think it's going to be very hard on that hospital. Now, that's my personal opinion. My personal opinion. But I think if you take a look at the facts, our neighboring cities, as mentioned in here, really alluding to, a lot of them are going to first stop at Memorial if they don't already. And this tips the scales. Right now they have been sharing this indigent care. So I'm very concerned about that. I think it's very important that we're very united passing this resolution, and I do think time is of essence. This hearing on October 2nd is only weeks away, and we need to pack the place. We need to all be there. Every one of us need to be writing our state representatives, asking them for letters of support, our other local county officials for letters of support and to oppose this. And we need to write the CON board, and I have that address and we'll make it. There's a website Patty Gregory and this group are putting up. I'll have more information to share with you probably as soon as tomorrow. We were supposed to meet today, but we ran out of time. But they're working on a letter writing campaign, a signature campaign of a petition, a website with information, and I told them I thought we possibly will have a resolution to share with them as to the city council's position after tonight. I am going tomorrow morning to state the case to the Belleville Chamber of Commerce. Mary Ann Reese is also going to the Chamber of Commerce in the morning, but I am told that the Chamber of Commerce is going to take a vote as to their position on this. And I would hope that they would stand with the city of Belleville, ready to do everything possible to fight this move out of Belleville.
What time is that meeting?
It's open to chamber members, I'm told, chamber board members. I don't know how that goes.
Okay.
I'm not,
'cause I
in
attend a
fact,
lot.
I'll be honest with you. I'm only invited, I'm a chamber board member, and I was asked not to come until it's my time to speak.
Oh,
So-
that's interesting.
So I'm just telling you, you'd have to clear that with John Langerman. They've even called and asked Emily, who goes every month, to not be there this meeting. So I don't know how that works, and I'm not pretending to try to run the chamber. I am on a board, but Alderman Schneider.
So you're looking for a motion to approve this resolution, right?
That's, I believe we have a motion to read.
We do.
We have a motion.
Yes.
Alderman Randall.
Thank you, sir. Question for the city attorney. You were to put yourself in Attorney Silverman's position. I want to go back to the last paragraph on page 1, because while I appreciate Alderman Kinsella's illustration of what that adversely impact access to health care might mean, I guess I have a different interpretation of it, and I was wondering if you were privy to how Mr. Silverman would answer that question in front of the board. Because when I look at it, I'm thinking of the hospital's location in Belleville and how it serves our southern corridor, if you will, the communities to our south and communities to our west as well.
And that's
part of it.
That's one of the things we plan to address with them, and we are talking to many of these communities. And I have heard from many of the communities, many, and they are going to be present and I think sign up to object. We have a long list of people coming forward already, clergy and others who are coming forward who are very moved and disappointed by this action of St. Elizabeth's Hospital. Let me tell you one other thing. When we talk about, you raised the question, Alderman Holt, have I tried to meet with them about alternatives? That was one part of your question earlier?
That really wasn't my question. My question was, have we, as a city, spent any money developing those alternatives?
Well, we're gonna answer that probably in executive session.
Okay.
However, I will tell you that shortly after I became mayor, I sat down with the administration of St. Elizabeth's at their request at that time in 2005, and they shared drawings and plans.
I can't hear what
Gentlemen,
they're talking.
folks, I have been talked to by several of you, and since the last meeting, that I'm not stopping the side conversations. And it's come from several of you calling my office. I'm gonna ask you for the final time. If we can't keep focused on the conversation here, I'm gonna have to ask some of you to leave and take your conversations outside. I've been asked by a number of you from both sides of the aisle. Now, they did present at one time drawings and a proposal to build new here in Belleville.
They, St. Elizabeth's.
They, St. Elizabeth's. And that's why I come back to them many times in our discussions. Well, and their answer now, the only answer they give is no longer viable. So we believe it's time to take this document and all of the efforts we talked about and go and stand up for what we believe, and that is that they have not adequately tried to reinvest in this facility for a long, long time. They've let it go down. They have not reinvested adequately to keep it attractive. They've lost tons of good employees over the years, and it's been very challenging and very tough on the city as well.
Right.
Are there any other questions? We have a motion and we have a second.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let me, as far as we know, the board who will make this decision has not set a date yet.
There was a date talked about, and I don't.
But it would be November at the earliest?
I believe.
Well, there's a
so.
local hearing on October 2nd.
I understand
And
there's a
then their
local
board
hearing.
meeting in November.
I heard there's a date of November 12th, but don't hold me to that date. I don't know if there's
We
anything.
can, I'll confirm that and you'll be notified.
Okay, I understand there is a local hearing, but that is not the final thing. My point is, we can take the time to make this not be a document. I'm sorry, I just keep thinking of that commercial about New York City, and you're wanting me to pass as a Belleville girl a document that came from a Chicago lawyer without putting any input into it. I can't do that. I think we have time to go over this. I think this makes us look like bullies, and I don't want us to look like that. I would rather we, even if we have to call a special ordinance and legal committee and encourage everybody to come to it, I would rather we take the time to go through this. It doesn't mean that we want to say anything different. I just think we can say it better.
Alderman Kinsella.
Your Honor, I'm going to leave this up to the attorney that we hired. I mean, he's the one that wrote this, and he knows how forceful he has to be. I disagree with Alderman Hull. I think we hired the attorney. He's put it in, he's chosen the wording. He has a reason for it, and I think we should send it off as it's presented.
I would like to see copies of other things that have gone before this board before I can agree to this.
I don't have copies of all these people's
I
letters.
understand that. I understand that. That's why I'm asking for a little bit more time rather than to walk in, have something on my desk, and have to vote on it tonight. I just feel very uncomfortable.
Alderman Galetti.
I tend to agree with it. I didn't say this with my first remark. I kind of agree with Alderman Holt. I wouldn't use the word disingenuous and turn something like this to a judge. So, I mean, I want St. Elizabeth's here. My firstborn was born at St. Elizabeth's. His footprints on the wall up there. But there, I mean, use an exclamation mark at the end of this thing. I mean, this isn't a text message. You know, this is something we're going to pass as like quasi legislation. So I do agree that there's some of it needs to be reworded. It does sound whiny.
Well, I think you have a right then to vote against it. We have a motion on the floor to adopt this and send it forward. And I'm not saying this is the final argument we have, but it is felt that we need to adopt something and get started and make it very clear our position of being totally in opposition of their move. And I would, my personal opinion, I do think it's abandonment what they're doing if they pull out of Belleville. I think it's a very strong word, but I think it's very accurate. So I'm going to call for the roll call vote.
Heisler.
I vote is to approve the resolution that's in front of you, 3202.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Holt.
With great reluctance, no.
Ridgewitz.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Silsby.
Aye.
Hayden. Seibert.
Aye.
White.
In order to avoid appearance of conflict of interest, I must abstain.
Galetti.
I'm going to vote no because of some of the wording.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Orlett. Schneider.
Aye, because I really,
I'm sorry.
excuse me, I really want them
Okay.
to stay, and I think we need to do as much as we can. And some of the words, yes, I wish were changed, but
What's your comment?
if we could.
2 noes, 1 abstention, so it's 12 to.
The motion
2-1.
carries. The motion carries and the resolution passes. We move forward to ordinances. I ask for a motion to read by title only. Ordinances 7801, 7805, 7806, and 7807.
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Silsby. Do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Seibert, to read by title only. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Ordinance number 7801, ordinance authorizing the city of Belleville, St. Clair County, Illinois to borrow funds from the Water Pollution Control Program in the aggregate principal amount of $26,897,153.00 for LTCP Phase 3. B, ordinance number 7805, a zoning ordinance regarding case number 53, Greg Crawford. C, ordinance number 7806, a zoning ordinance regarding case 54, Adam Nordmore, Peachy Yogurt Bar LLC. D, ordinance number 7807, a zoning ordinance regarding case 55, Laura Spellbring, Turn Treasures Gallery.
Motion to approve ordinance number 7801, 7805, 7806, and 7807. So
Motion by
moved.
Alderman Silsby, second by Alderman White. Any discussion? Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Ridgewitz. Randall. Anthony. Davidson. Silsby.
Aye.
Hayden. Seibert. White. Galletti. Musgrove. Orlett. Schneider.
Aye.
Motion's carry. Any unfinished business? Yes, ma'am.
There was a comment in the newspaper, and I'd like to give the police chief the opportunity to give his side of it, that we are not using the license plate reader that we purchased.
Come on down. Did you hear the question?
I have no idea where that came from. It's not true.
Okay.
There's no facts to it. We use it every day. It is assigned to the DEA. It has an epic computer system in it. I mean, we use it, but it's assigned to that, and we have bought a lot of money to this city using that. So I don't know where that stuff comes
Was that a sound off?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, the LPR.
I would call, I'd recommend calling the chief when you
Okay,
read
and
the
I
sound
probably should
off.
have, but I think it's important that he had the opportunity to publicly state that.
As you think about that, we put that out in 2011, and you got 2014, and somebody's bringing up the LPR that is sitting in a garage. Where'd that come from? Who would, I don't think about the LPR. And I'm the police chief, and somebody's thinking about that. The thing is being used.
Thank you, chief.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I have a list. Had to miss a meeting recently, so I watched it online, and I have to say, I am not impressed with the camera quality. As long as we waited and waited to get this worked out, is this the best we can do?
We will pass it on and experiment. Cable, Lindenwood is still developing their program,
Okay,
but it is now up on cable, and they did come in here and they did recommend where to position these cameras. And they did recommend the cameras. So this is charter with Lindenwood.
I know, so I was expecting a clearer quality. They're very fuzzy. I have another question. Somebody recently brought up to me that they were going to be charged to rent a room in the library. I have not had time to do extensive research, but when I asked the librarian for a copy of what our rules and regulations are, I was really disturbed by it. Basically, we would tell the Boy Scouts if they came in to rent a room, A, we're gonna charge them $10, and B, if they wanna talk about selling popcorn to raise money for their troop, sorry, you can't do that here because you can't discuss any fundraisers. So here's what I would suggest.
Okay. I would suggest you take that concern and address it to the library board.
Okay.
And I think that's a good place to start, and then if there's further action needed to be taken, I think we will then hear from that, okay?
Okay, another action I didn't even want to bring up, but when I read the minutes and then watched the video of the last thing, I got to talk about Police and Fire Commission again. I know the attorney issued a statement, but I have done more research, and it really seems to contradict what he says. I am very concerned that the makeup of our Police and Fire Commission does not pass the state legal test, and that any actions they take may come back upon us as a city.
Well, I think the memo that I issued on August 28th speaks for itself. And I believe if there's any desire to go in a different direction or do something different, again, these were appointments made before I was here, but if you want to promulgate some specific rules or something of that nature, you can address it in the recodification process, and that's what I recommended.
I understand that, and that was fine until it came up that the board is going to be acting in a legal manner on something that could boomerang on us, and that's what I don't want to see. We are now cognizant of the fact that we are not following state rules. And no amount of home rule will overturn that. And I felt like that was the crux of your argument, and I just don't see that.
Well, no, I think the case law is set out in the memo, and I know you're referring to the book that I lent you.
Right.
So, I can tell you that there's case law that suggests it's a home rule exercise of authority if you want to appoint in contradiction to that particular section, just like Home Rule Authority does with several sections. But again, if you're, I don't think it's going to invalidate any action by this board.
Okay.
And, but again, it's something that could be properly addressed in codification. I was not the city attorney at the time they were appointed. I'm operating on facts as they're represented to me, but I can tell you that I think the memo speaks for itself.
Okay, and I'm publicly
I'd be happy to
registering my
talk
disagreement with you.
Yeah,
So, another issue that recently came up, some of us were present at a Chamber of Commerce function recently, and it was mentioned that the city clerk formerly attended representing Belleville, but that has changed. And so I kind of would like to ask, how did that take place? And why is someone who is not an elected official representing us?
Not an elected official, who?
Emily.
Emily has always gone to the chamber meetings. For the Director of Economic Development, as long as I've been on this council, has always gone to chamber meetings.
I'm speaking specifically of the government committee.
If I may, I can remind you what happened. I remember what you're talking about. Chairman Curran stated that Linda Fields used to be on the Government Affairs Committee, and he thanked her for that, although she was not present at the barbecue. But he felt the need to mention that, and so when he did that, I thought, well, shoot, I'd love to be involved in that as well if I could. And I then informed the chairman of that committee, Mary Lamy, that I'd like to be a part of that, and she said, it's been filled by Emily Foltz. And that's it. And I'd like it to be known that I'd like to be involved in that if invited, as well as anything else I can do. It's just I feel like sometimes I'm left out, and that's okay. And not a complaint from me. I did not ask Alderman Holt to bring that up.
No, he did not in any way. It was.
But that's it. That's all she's talking about.
It was an embarrassment to me that other interests send elected officials. It was formerly our policy to send an elected official, and that has changed.
There was no policy.
It was the practice.
Well, I'm not saying it wasn't a practice. It was a practice before I became mayor, and I don't know if Chairman Kern, when he was mayor, first asked Linda Fields to go to that meeting or what, but I don't know of any written policy. She was asked somewhere along the road for many years since she served on that committee. We have to look into it. I mean, once again, we get here and there's accusations like we're doing something wrong. And it's not something wrong. You can call me up and I'd be glad to research and talk to you about where this history came from. And we probably could have resolved this, or maybe we'll never resolve it, but we can certainly look into it. But, that's fine. You choose to do your list of unfinished business like this, and that's just, that's fine.
You take the privilege for yourself of springing something on us at the last minute and expect us to pass a law. I think I should be accorded the same respect you get.
I'm giving you all the respect in the world, ma'am. Alderman Hayden, do you have?
Yeah, my only comment real quick, because Ms. Holt's got the floor. Ms. Holt, you're just going to have to understand, you're trying to bring up common sense and fairness and do the right thing, replace the person with the previous person, and it's called Belleville, St. Clair County politics. And that's why Dallas Cook is not on that committee, and nor will he ever be. And that's just the way it goes. And I wouldn't spend too much time or sweat on it, because that's just the way it goes. They don't want inclusion of people who have opposite opinions of what they're doing. And that's sad for our community.
I respectfully, and I'd like to be noted that I totally disagree with that statement, but we'll move on. Joe, do you have your hand up?
No.
Okay, just checking.
I have both arms up.
Both arms up. I see you're surrendering.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, I understand. Okay, any miscellaneous and new business? Motor fuel claims the amount of $3,783.54.
Move the claims be paid, Your Honor.
Motion by Alderman Seibert, second. Second by Alderman Schneider. Discussion on the motor fuel claims. Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Ridgewitz. Randall. Anthony. Davidson.
Aye.
Silsby. Hayden. Seibert.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Galletti. Musgrove.
Aye.
Orlett. Schneider.
Motion carries. This time I'd ask for a motion to go in executive session to discuss personnel litigation and property acquisition. I don't know if we need all of them, but it's on the kind of. Do I have a motion? Motion by Alderman Consilla. Do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Heisler. Discussion on going in executive session. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it? Okay. The last item is not necessary to take any action at this time. I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Your Honor.
Motion by Hayden, second by Galletti. All in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.